Welcome back to the Lazy Budget Travel Tips podcast. I'm your host, Genni Franklin, and today I've got a guest who's proof that luxury travel doesn't have to mean long trips or massive points balances. I'm speaking to Jen Wennerberg, who is a mom of three, a passionate scuba diver, and someone who's figured out how to sneak away for epic all-inclusive getaways without breaking the bank or using all her PTO. If you've ever felt like you don't have the time or the points for luxury travel, Jen's going to change your mind. We're talking Hyatt all-inclusives, quick 3 to 4 night escapes, and how to make the most of your points when your schedule and family life don't allow for long vacations. So let's dive in. Hey, Jen, thank you for
Hi.
being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about how you got into points and miles and maybe like where your love of scuba diving came from?
Yeah, so I'll start with the scuba diving piece. It came into my life way before Points and Miles did. So my husband and I started dating in 2012. And about 6 months later, I had a wedding for a friend in Hawaii. And he decided to tag along. He had never really traveled before. He was one of those families that they did a couple road trips. They stayed very close to home for a lot of their family vacations. So going to Hawaii was the furthest he had ever been before. He's a very anxious flyer, but I was determined to show him the world. And I was always a big traveler, so wanted to make sure he was on board with that if we were going to keep dating.
I feel
Um,
that.
yes, it was a requirement. So this was a test. But we took a whole week to there, even though we were just there for a wedding for which only took one day. So we had a lot of friends around, but both of us just were very curious about scuba diving. So we did this little intro to scuba where you go into a pool and test out if you can manage the breathing and it doesn't freak you out. And then they let you try it in really shallow water in the ocean. And we both fell in love with it right away. And so that was our first little intro. And then we went on and got certified and now have been diving for over 12 years and traveling all over the world to do it, even through kids and through the changes in life that we've experienced since. So that's actually part of the reason I got into Points and Miles is we wanted to be able to travel more and more frequently and didn't have the budget to do so, especially with having three little kids and just so many other things. It was now we have those added expenses of daycare and their activities, that kind of thing, that we just wanted that flexibility to be able to still fit it in our budget despite that change in life. So I really got into it in 2022 or so. And in the past 2 years have just really escalated that and the elements that we're using from it.
So, as someone who's getting into points and miles now, what were like your first redemption?
So I started listening to podcasts like this and trying to learn as much as I could and started off slow. So started off just with one card. I had the Venture from Capital One, not the Venture X, but the standard Venture for 15 years and had dabbled a little bit in the purchase eraser because I didn't know anything about transfer partners or hadn't really gone all the way down into the weeds of the options there. So I knew a little bit about that and did not know the power of opening multiple cards and really expanding on that. I think my first one was the Chase Sapphire Preferred, in addition to I still have that Venture, and then really stuck with Chase for my first year. But my husband is a very on-board player too, and we both own our own businesses. So that has really helped us too. He has a business that requires a lot of spend. So he's been able to do some of the other bigger sign up bonus things that I wouldn't have been able to do just as a normal consumer in my daily spend. So for me, I started with some of those, just what you would think of as the starter cards, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. I have a Chase Freedom Unlimited and really felt it was important for me to get my grasp around one ecosystem before moving on to a bunch of others and trying to get too overwhelmed. It was like, this is a hobby. This is for fun, but it's going to make our lives better. I shouldn't be getting stressed about it. So that was my real approach at first. And baby steps, don't do everything all at once. don't go crazy. So then I started with my personal business to opening up some of the Chase business cards, Chase Ink Unlimited, some of those. So yeah, so then since we've just both kind of played back and forth, taking turns opening up cards. We do, like I said, a healthy mix of business cards since we both own our own businesses. And it's really just been on a regular cadence now. We have quarterly tax payments that for being your own business owner is good, but also hard. Being able to hit any welcome bonus really helps ease that blow a little bit and
Yeah,
make it feel rewarding to pay your taxes.
for sure. I like asking the question to normal. I would like to consider us normal people. We have like normal spends. Yeah, you own your own business. I own my own business, but a lot of people have like side hustles and stuff that qualify as businesses. They don't
Yep.
realize that they don't have to have this huge incorporated business with really high expenses. But I like to ask that question because I don't think we talk enough about how real people get started. We
Mhm.
talk a lot on social media and other platforms about, oh, you got to get the Amex Platinum and don't use the
Mhm.
portal or don't erase purchases and get reimbursed. You should be transferring your points, all of this stuff that to some people is overwhelming. And it
Mhm.
just gets them really intimidated to the point where they're like, this isn't for me. I
Yep.
don't have the time to learn all this. And this is super confusing. And it is super confusing.
It is.
But the thing is that it doesn't have to be. You don't have to do what other people are telling you to do.
Yep.
Get the information from podcasts like this or wherever you get your info, and then make the decision on your own. Like you started with the venture, you started with just reimbursing yourself. There's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with it.
Nope. And I still do it sometimes.
Yeah. Other people say, I will never use the portal. I'll never cash out my points for 1 cent per point or whatever. Well, that's nice for you, but I'm just a normal person, and that's what works for me for this particular trip or this particular redemption. So that's what I'm going to do. And we're here to tell you it's okay.
And honestly, the biggest benefit for me is the alleviation of the stress and doing something easy.
Hmm.
This for me was 100% how do I still enrich my life and not get stressed out about stuff like this and it alleviates some financial stress. But
Hmm.
I have never had an Amex Business Platinum card. And that might
Hmm.
sound blasphemy in this space, but I've never held one. My husband has, and that works for him. But not every single person in points and miles needs to have every single card that's out there being recommended. It is very personal what works for you. My side hustle, I do photography. So I have a full-time 9 to 5. I work in marketing, but then I do photography as a side hustle. I love it. It gets out some of my creative juices flowing. It's super fun. And it is not a huge business. It is just me. It is small. It has opened up some things for me, but it is not a huge, overwhelming business. And it is not my full income. So I think it just, you said, a lot of people have side hustles that they might not think qualify, selling on marketplaces or baking things and selling it or whatever your thing is that you do, you can either make it a business and qualify or you already have it and qualify.
Hmm.
So I've really gone that route. And you're right. It doesn't have to be something that everyone else is doing. You can make your own path in this space for sure.
Absolutely. And not to say that I would never get an Amex Platinum because it's definitely on the list, but it's pretty far down there for me. And like the lifestyle that we have, there are just other cards and other routes that are more appealing to us right now. And I like to tell people it's okay if you feel intimidated by transferring points or by getting other credit cards that maybe have really high annual fees. Just
Mm-hmm.
start small. It's like making pancakes. When you are making pancakes, the first one always looks gross and disgusting. But if you don't make that first gross looking pancake, then you can't get to the good ones. The same way with credit card points and really with anything, you gotta go through those growing pains to give you the confidence to then move on to those more complicated redemptions. And there's nothing wrong with that. Most of us have done it that way, and it's okay.
Mhm.
So, enough about that. Let's talk about all inclusives because that's another thing is that you hear a lot about other types of redemptions like going to Europe or the Maldives and stuff. And I love going to Europe, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with going to the Maldives, definitely on
Mhm.
the list. But some people, they just want an all-inclusive resort where they don't have to think. They don't have to think about where they're going to get their meals. They don't want to think about activities. They just want to relax. And no
Mhm.
judgment here. I think all-inclusives are still real travel. If you want to use your points for that, great. So, Jen, you have done several all-inclusives with
Yeah.
points. So tell us a little bit about your strategy and which ones have you stayed at?
Yes. The funny thing is, when we started diving, we went to an all inclusive, paid. This was back in 2013 when my husband and I were not in the points and miles. We paid for it. We were there for, I think, 8 days. And my husband said, I will never do an all inclusive again. And what we discovered is it was just too long. Like he is an active, like needs to get away from the property type of guy. He does not sit and read a book by a pool. He is, I need to get out and do things and explore. So, what we've found is this little bit of a sweet spot where we can do a 3 or 4 night all inclusive. We get to do a day of diving or a day or two of diving. And then we are ready after we go scuba diving. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of exercise. You're usually getting up early. We're usually diving from morning to lunchtime, like 8 to noon, 8 to 1. We come back to the resort. We still have all afternoon to get our cocktails and relax by the pool or walk on the beach or whatever we want. And it's just a perfect balance for him and me. I love it. It's like I get my relaxing time. We've done our passion, our diving, and then we can just enjoy the luxury of the properties. So I think it's interesting because a lot of people go to all inclusives and love it for a week and they never leave. And there's this connotation of people that's the only way you can do an all inclusive. But we are still very much out doing activities, leaving the property, and still feeling like we're getting enough value out of it because we're doing something for 3 or 4 hours and we're not gone for 10-hour long expeditions or excursions, but we're getting that balance and we're not just sitting by a pool for 12 hours a day. Yeah. I'm like, if you want to do that, then for sure, you probably already know all inclusives are a good choice for you. But I think there's just this thought that people have of, oh, I'm going to be stuck doing pool bingo. That's not my style. And we have really just found that it's great because when we get back, we don't have to worry about where we're going to go find dinner, where we're going to do this. It gives us that balance of easy and still getting to do some of the other stuff that we want. So that's why we really loved it. Hyatt has been our go to just because of the value in the redemptions. So I've done a ton of research on Hilton all inclusives and other places, and we might do it someday. We just haven't yet because it can be 100,000 points for a night at a Hilton all inclusive when it's 25,000 points per night at a Hyatt,
Wow,
which
that's such a huge difference for the same amount of minimum spend. You're thinking about it credit card wise.
so
Mm.
even if Amex transfers to Hilton 2 to 1. So for that 100,000 a night, all inclusive at Hilton, it would cost you 50,000 American Express points versus 25,000 Hyatt points that I transfer from Chase. So it's double the cost in points in a lot of ways. We do use Amex usually for flights from my husband's Amex account, but we've just seen this sweet spot. And a lot of it is you can find hotels for the same number of points, even comparable Hyatt hotels. For example, we went to Secrets the Vine in Cancun. It's a very high-end luxury hotel. It's relatively new. It's a giant high rise. You can get really high up rooms with a beautiful view of the ocean, sunset, all of this. And the Playa del Carmen Grand Hyatt, right down close to there, is the same number of points per night, but no food or anything included. So for me, when I'm looking at that value, and even if I didn't eat every single meal at the all-inclusive, I'm still getting a relaxing 3 or 4 night vacation. And that 25,000 points is covering all my food and drink for the most part. It's just
Yeah,
mind
man.
blowing.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing we really like too is trying out different types of the all-inclusive brands that Hyatt offers. A lot of people probably know about Hyatt and their breadth of different types of properties. They have a little bit of something for everyone, and the same goes for their all-inclusives. So they have secrets brands, for example, which are really tailored more to couples. They're a little bit quieter, they're a little bit more romantic, adults only. They also have Breathless, which is also adults only, but that is more party vibe, more
Mhm.
lively, more nightlife. So, depending on what you're looking for, through all of those different 10 brands of all inclusives that they have, there's family friendly. There's more like Zoetry is more focused on wellness, having some of that more retreat type feel where you're doing things that are more focused on meditation or quiet, healthy eating, that kind of vibe. It really caters to whatever you're looking for. And that's where we found some that we really liked and have been trying out new ones. So we've tried out a Hyatt Ziva, we've done a Breathless, we've done a Secret. We're really trying to see and explore the different types of all inclusives to feel out which one fits the best for us. And we've loved them all so far, actually.
I love that because when people think of all inclusives, they think it's all the same,
Hmm.
right? I haven't been to any of the Hyatt ones, but I didn't know the different vibes. So, what are you looking for? Are you looking for just like a relaxing all adults? Are you looking for something that's a little bit more party or more family friendly vibe? And that's great because, like you said, there's something for everyone. So, when you guys are looking into booking these, you already mentioned how much the points are, but what's included with that? And what types of rooms do you book? How far in advance? What's the plan?
So we do one bigger trip every year, and that one we don't stay at an all inclusive. That one we might be going to Europe, for example. We're going to Greece in August. No all inclusives. We're very excited. We are diving on that trip, but we're going for 10 days. If we're going somewhere like that, I'm planning that a year out, 10 months out, a little bit further planning. And I just know that flights and that kind of stuff, you're going to find the best deals usually a little bit further out. These trips are more flexible and we are more just focused on finding something that is close to diving
Mm.
and then what has award availability. And we just know we have this 3 or 4 days where we have a window of time open. Let's go somewhere. Grandparents are willing to watch the kids for 3 days.
Nice.
There's no major events happening. Let's sneak away. Let's find something. And we just do a little bit of exploring. We usually like to go places we haven't been before. So these ones I'm usually finding 3 to 4 months in advance. And it's really determined by what has standard room availability. So we are trying to make our points stretch as far as we can most of the time. So I am that person booking straight into the standard room. A lot of all inclusives have what's called like a preferred club room. So you can pay a little bit more in cash or points. And they can be nicer rooms, but they also come with some additional perks. So it might be access to this one pool, only people with preferred club access. It could be that you get access to this one bar and it has more top rail drinks. So there is some element that we could pay more and have a little bit more luxurious experience. I would rather do more of these trips more often or save the points for when we do travel with our kids. We take our kids usually on 1 to 2 trips a year, and we like to bring my parents with. So when we're getting multiple rooms and all of the thing that goes with traveling with 7 of us, you need a lot of points for that. So I'm
You gotta
all of
stretch those points as much as you can.
yes, we are stretching. And sometimes it works at the all inclusives to apply something like a club access award or a guest of honor award if you are able to get those, or if you're really lucky and have globalist status, you can get some of those additional perks automatically. But we just choose to save our points and stay in a standard room. We're not in the room much anyway. So we're all about the basics to stretch those points.
Yeah, we'd probably do the same. We always book into the standard room. We hardly ever will pay more points to get like a bigger room or like a better view or something. But we'll email sometimes and we like to travel a lot off peak because we're really flexible. So a lot of times we will get an upgrade or like some sort of
Sure.
perk and stuff. But most of the time we're not in the room that much either. So I totally agree with you on that 100%. So also, is that a thing with all inclusives about emailing asking for an upgrade? Because I have a feeling it's not, but you're nodding your head.
Yes, it's all very property dependent, but we have done that before. So, for example, at the Hyatt Ziva, we booked into a standard room, and this is Hyatt Ziva Puerto Vallarta. We booked a standard room there, and if you do a little sleuthing on the internet or on their website, you can usually find a email address to reach out to. And then we actually reached out and said it was for my 40th birthday. So we were there a couple months ago when I turned 40, let them know that we were celebrating. They put a cute little dessert in the room and all of that. But also, before we got there, had said, if you want to upgrade, here are some upgrade options. Everything from their 2-story pool suite, massive, crazy that we're not going to pay for, but also just basic if you want to do a $50 a night upgrade to have an ocean view instead of, I think we had, I don't remember. We didn't have a balcony. And it's like, well, maybe it'd be nice to have a balcony. So we did choose on that one to pay a little bit extra a night just to splurge a little bit and have that
Mhm.
balcony with an ocean view so I could have my coffee out there in the morning.
Yeah, we love a balcony too. My husband, sometimes if he doesn't get a balcony, he's like, I'm not staying there.
I don't know what it is, but it's a balcony overlooking the ocean. It's just magical.
Yeah. So then what are you guys getting included for these points?
Yeah.
And the points that you're saying 25,000 a night, that's for two people, right?
So that's for typically, this is just me and my husband. We haven't brought our kids to an all inclusive yet. We might in the future. Like the Dreams properties are very family friendly. That's something that we're thinking about. It's just a little bit more complicated with 5 because we'd
Yeah.
have to, in almost every situation, get 2 rooms and figure all of that out. And most of the properties you can add on kids. If you book with points, you can add on kids for a cash rate. So something we're considering. But yes, for all these all inclusives, it's just been my husband and I. We get food included. So there's usually, but depending on the size of the property, several restaurants and you eat whatever you want. There are always opportunities to pay more and do more. So all of the standard menu is what we've had, like acceptable food. It's all good. But if you want to add on a lobster and pay a cash rate for that, you can.
That sounds like a cruise.
Yeah. So similar to a cruise, you get all of the basics. Everything's included. Drinks, we've never had a situation where we've had, oh, these drinks are terrible. They're watered down. They taste like rail. But a lot of people, that's the complaint too, is these all inclusive, the drinks are gross. But we've also stayed at category C or above. So just like the standard award chart, there's a separate award chart for all inclusives that goes, I think, A through F. A and B are less points, but they also tend to be just those like less expensive, less quality offering. So we found this sweet spot in C, and sometimes we stay to D's too. We're not usually paying the huge price tag for an F. We might someday for a splurge.
Mm.
Those can be double or triple the amount of points per night. So those C properties and above, we've never had an issue where this tastes terrible. So yeah, all of your food and drink is included. Some of them have like fun daily activities and some things like paddle boards included or kayaks and whatever you want to do activity wise. It varies, like I said, by property and what's there. But then there's also things like organized group things like bingo or activity class like yoga. Sometimes I'll go do yoga. That's all included. So there's just a lot of things that you can do. A lot of them have poolside menus. So you can sit in the pool or sit next to the pool, order your food, sit on the beach, order your shrimp tacos or whatever you want. It's brought right to you on the beach,
Nice.
all included. And probably one of the best parts is something I would never typically do in a regular standard hotel room, but room service. Room service included. So we get back after a day of diving, we're tired, we're exhausted. We order up a couple of cocktails and a lunch and just have it brought to the room while we're getting all settled and putting our dive gear away and everything. Or late night, I really want some dessert right now. We didn't get dessert with dinner. Just call up room service and it's there in 20 minutes and it is all included. So it feels like you're spending a lot of money. It feels bougie, but it's all included and it's great.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's very similar to a cruise. People ask me about all inclusives versus, I don't want to say a normal, but just a different
Mhm.
vacation going to Europe or something. I'm like, do you like cruising? And
Mhm.
they're like, oh, I've never cruised before. Okay, this is how it is. It's basically a cruise on land. A lot of people lump the all-inclusives and cruises together as in not really real travel or
Yeah,
real vacations. And I'm like, no, they are. It's just the type of vacation and like the type of vibe you're going for. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like there's a time and place for a cruise and an all-inclusive.
exactly. And like I said, when I'm doing one of these 3 or 4 days, it's so nice to not have to think about what's next. What am I doing? Vacationing with kids is not vacationing. It's just traveling with your children and having to manage a lot of that other places. So when we're doing one of these short little getaways, I want it as easy as possible. We like the all inclusive versus diving because it feels just like we can go do things on our schedule a little bit more and do the dives or excursions that we want to. But that's a benefit of cruising too. You get off the boat, you have a day someplace you probably never would have been otherwise or wouldn't spend a full vacation on visiting. There's definitely a lot of opportunity that people just write off on cruises and all inclusives and it can fit in. And they're short cruises too. That's the other
Mhm.
thing. You can do a short 3 or 4 day cruise and just have it all taken care of for you. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, why not, man? So we talked about how much the points are, but do you know how much in cash you're saving for these trips?
Yeah. So what I've seen is typically it's about a 2 to 3 cent point cost per point. So that example on the Secrets the Vine, it was 25,000 points a night when we booked, but it was about $600 a night. So we were looking at 2.5 cents cost per point. So for us to go there for 3 nights like we did, it would have been $1,800. Instead, we're just using 75,000 Chase points. That one I think was actually from a Chase Inc. Unlimited sign up bonus. It was exactly the right amount. Perfect. One card. I've got my 3 nights at this amazing all inclusive taken care of instead of paying $1,800. So for me, that's worth it. Even if I was to cash that out and got $750 in cash back, I'm getting $1,800 worth in value instead. For the ones that we've done, it's usually in the 2 to 3 cents for cost per point valuation.
So if you're calculating cost per point, a lot of people say, oh, you don't want to redeem unless it's at least 2 cents per point. We don't really go by that here, but we still think that it's a good indication of the type of value you're getting. But if you just want to look at, okay, it's 1800 versus zero, that's
Hmm.
still a great way to look at it. You're still saving 1800 bucks. But 2 to 3 cents per point, that's awesome. And when you say you use Chase points, you Chase right now is one of the only, I think Built is the other one, but
Yep.
basically Chase is one of the only programs that will transfer to Hyatt. So you use the Ink Unlimited, you use the points from that, but the Ink Unlimited doesn't give you the option to transfer points. So what I'm guessing you did is you moved your points from the Ink Unlimited to your Chase Sapphire Preferred, and then you transfer the points from there.
Correct.
Hey guys, it's Jenny here. Sorry to interrupt. If you love the podcast, I've got a free budget travel 101 course to help you start saving on flights, hotels, and more. Grab it at travelingfranklins.com/budget travel 101 or check the show notes. Want to connect with other like-minded travelers? Join the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. I share more tips, host live Q&As, and keep you up to date on the latest. And if you're looking to show your support, check out my affiliate links or buy me a coffee. Back to the episode.
Yes.
And it's so
And
easy to do that, guys. It's so easy. You can do
so,
it online in 2 seconds. It's like instant.
so easy.
But-
And this one is actually even one step deeper because my
Mhm.
husband actually signed up for that Chase Inc. Unlimited.
Ah.
you have a household, we live in the same house. He can move his point to my account. All you have to do, you have to initially set that up with Chase. You have to call them. He has to grant permission for that. You both have to be there. He just is, yep, whatever she says goes fine. So we just move those points over from his card to my Chase Sapphire Preferred and then moved those over to my Hyatt account.
Sweet.
So it sounds more complicated, but it's not. It is very seamless. They show up in your Hyatt account typically pretty quick. Sometimes there can be a slight delay, but it's usually pretty fast.
Yeah, and that's like the power of being in P2 mode. If you can
Mhm.
get your player 2 on board, then you're going to open up so many opportunities. I actually have a podcast episode with my husband, and we talk about how he was like a reluctant P2, what kind of went through his head and stuff. So that's a really good episode. If you're listening to this and you're like, man, I really wish I could get my P2 on board, go back and listen to the episode. But how did you get your husband into points and miles? Was it an instant thing where he was like, oh, I see the value in this? No, it wasn't. Tell us.
He is very much, I want to have one credit card. I don't want to think about it. And had been using the same card forever. So I had him actually listen to a few podcasts and understand it because I feel like there's just that when you're hearing it from an outside perspective, sometimes it validates what I was trying to say and explain. So I did that. I also did a lot of research and showed him because I think one of his concerns was credit score, which is a very common concern that people have getting into this hobby or business or whatever it is for you. So showing him some of that, like we both have 800 plus credit scores. He didn't want to tank that or ruin that, understandably. And so I did a lot of that research for him and showed here's the different buckets of what makes up a credit score. Here's some of the ways we could actually get that benefit from having more cards and what areas that might improve. You probably know this, Jenny, but if you have a higher available credit and you're not using a lot of it, that can really actually increase your score because your utilization of credit is low. So showing him some of those facts and not letting his fear hold him back and just opening his eyes more. And then the best thing is always to take him on a trip and
Oh,
show
yeah.
him this. We got this because of that credit card that you opened and you helped make this happen. And guess what? Your credit score didn't tank. We're here. You're not going to get in trouble for anything. This is all legal. It's all good. And now he just knows, okay, what am I doing next? He's not the one researching cards or going out and figuring out what the next step is or researching the trips, but he is totally on board. Whatever I tell him, he trusts me. We've been at it now for a while. He knows that I'm not going to steer him wrong. And he's really excited about some of these things like going to Greece that we would have in the past paid for tens of thousands of dollars probably, or not flown something like a business class seat because we would never have just spent that money. And he's also a big guy. He's tall. He's all on it now for the flights, for being able to stretch his legs a little bit.
Yeah, same. I feel like our husbands were like the same exact person because that's exactly how Brandon felt as well. So there is hope. You can get them to make that 180. And shameless plug for another podcast episode. Just if you haven't listened to all the podcast episodes, you should go back. But I have one for all about your credit score, and I explain everything that Jen was just talking about. And so if you want your P2 or prospective P2 to have something to listen to about credit cards so that it's not just you talking to them, because we all know that when it's the wife or the partner, the spouse who's telling them, they're like, nah, whatever. But if someone else tells them, then, then they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. It's the same exact shit I told you.
Exactly. No, it's just reinforcing and backing you up. Same thing with getting him to pay the taxes on a credit card. It's like you're getting held up by the 1.8% fee or whatever it is, 1.7% fee on the credit card that you don't want to pay. I will gladly pay that $200 or whatever that amount is to get this in return.
800, 2,000. Yes. Do the math. My husband's a math guy. And I show him that math and he's like, oh, heck yeah, what are we even talking about? And I'm like, I know. What
I
are we
know.
talking
Yeah.
about?
But it's been an evolution. Like our whole relationship, like I mentioned, when we started dating, he didn't really even travel. He had a big flight anxiety. And now we have gone all over the world. We've been to Europe. We've been all over the Caribbean. He has just totally changed from this boy who grew up in Wisconsin, has never lived anywhere else, never really explored the world, and now uh, making it possible because he has gotten past that original hesitancy with some of that credit card stuff.
Yeah, that's so funny because my husband he's so spoiled now because he had anxiety too. And whenever there's a flight overseas, doesn't matter where we're going, he's like, I need to be business class." And I'm like, okay, well, we need to open up another credit card then, Mr.
Yes.
Only business class. And
Yes.
then he's like, are we going to be going to an airport lounge today? And I was
Oh,
like, why, yes, we are because of XYZ. And my husband makes fun of me because he calls me a passenger princess because I just love to be sitting in the front seat with my ponder pane looking out the
mhm.
window. And I just want to call him like points princess.
Oh, yes. My husband has actually gone on a trip with me and been like, where are we going this time? That is how much he is on board with helping accumulate points and everything. I'm doing all the planning, and he has shown up to the airport and been like, where are we going this time? I'm like, we're going to Aruba.
Welcome.
You're welcome. Let's go. So, yes, sounds like he is the points princess too. Maybe I'll start calling him that.
We should get them shirts. I need to have a merch store.
Yeah.
If you guys want a merch store, tell me because I will create. I have so many ideas. All right. So we already talked about your P2 strategy a little bit. Let's talk about though, like how you guys really maximize that. What other strategies do you use to maximize your earnings? Because that's why I like to call this like lazy travel tips. So you want to earn as many points as possible with as little effort as possible. So tell me how you guys do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I have tried out every way possible to squeeze every point out of every area that we can. So we both utilize referral bonuses. A lot of the times I'm signing up for a card first and then referring him to it or vice versa. So a lot of our card strategy follows that cadence of I know this month I'm opening X card or the Venture X or a Chase card, and then I know a couple months later he's going to be signing up for that same one just to top off those referral points as much as we can. So we definitely lean in on that. Not always the case, but whenever we can and it makes sense. I also am a big fan of the shopping portals. It drives him nuts. I'm not having that browser extension, but if he's making a big purchase, he knows to come to me and say, is this on Rakuten or is this something that I can do?
They're just
So
so good. They're just good little points
I
princesses.
know. Yes. He's like, I can't have this thing popping up all the time, but if it makes you happy and I'm making a big purchase, we'll let you know. So we do use Rakuten. I also sometimes use the American Airlines portal to get some American Airlines points just because those are harder because they don't transfer from other partners or cards unless you open up American Airlines specific cards.
Yep.
So those are the two I really lean in on. But there are tons for all the different airlines or even some outside of airlines too. So we definitely lean into those. I'm also looking at offers on the cards as well. So sometimes on Amex cards, like I got one recently that was spend $150 on Amazon, get an additional 1,200 membership rewards points. I'm not in there every day, but I am looking at them sporadically and adding the ones that I know we'll use. And it's just an easy way. Again, I'm not spending just to spend, but if it's something that we're going to purchase anyway and it's available out there on a credit card offer or on a shopping portal, we're trying to stack those wherever we can to, like I said, maximize those
Absolutely.
points.
Do you guys, or have you ever heard of card pointers?
I haven't, I've heard of it. Do you use it?
I do use it. I think it's a really good lazy tip for people. They're already looking at those offers on their cards because they have a Chrome extension, another Chrome extension. I need to get rid of some of the ones that I have. But it's good because it adds all those offers for you automatically with the Chrome extension, just with a few clicks. And if you want, you can look at the app and search for the store or whatever that you are looking at, and it'll tell you like which cards have a bonus for it or something.
Incredible.
So if you want to get into that, they have a free account that you can sign up for. And then they have a plus account, which I believe is you have to be plus to have the Chrome extension. I do have a link for it that I can drop in the show notes, but I would just sign up for a free account. I think you can use my link for that. I'm not sure. And then if you want to upgrade later, if that's something that you want, they have a lifetime subscription and stuff so that you only pay once. But I've been on Plus for a while and I've used it. I've saved a lot of money. It also keeps track of your annual fees. It gives you a cool, this is how much you're spending in annual fees. This is how much you've saved with just like
Oh.
adding offers and stuff. And then there's another feature where if you're at the store, at the mall, it'll tell you what cards to use at certain stores and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Get a free account if you're not sure if it's something that's going to work for you, and then maybe upgrade later. But
Yeah, that sounds like a great option. I should really take the time and look into it.
it took me a while to actually check this out and see if this is anything.
Yeah.
But once you do it, it's pretty easy. So if you have the time, I would definitely check that out. But what other stuff do you guys do?
Like I said, my husband is one of those, I don't want a million cards in my wallet. I don't want to have to think about it. I do a little bit more focus on category spend, especially for bigger purchases and thinking about where am I going to get the most bang for the buck on multipliers on categories.
If you're not working on a minimum spend,
Yeah, we're almost always working on a minimum spend to some degree. We're trying, at least between one of us. But that is one thing that I have a backup for him. And if you're not working on a minimum spend, here's your Chase Unlimited card that gets at least 1.5x on everything, or I'll give him my Capital One Venture. So he's getting 2x. So again, just little things like that seem like it's not that many points, but over time it can add up. Instead of getting one, you're getting at least 1.5 or 2. But really, a lot of what we're trying to do is plan spending around those sign up bonuses. And we're in the middle of a house remodel. We have to go buy flooring this weekend. I'm working on a sign up bonus right now. So we've been holding off until I got the card in the mail and it just came. So off we go to the hardware store. Or Menards is our local kind of like Lowe's or Home Depot equivalent. So really trying to time our spending around sign up bonuses is probably a big part of our strategy.
same. I love hearing what other people are doing because it helps validate what I do.
I got you, girl. You're on the same wavelength.
I know, seriously, everything you're saying, I'm like, yeah, no, we're like that too. Sorry, guys, if you're like, oh my God, we already know you guys have the same strategy. I'm just like, it's good to hear because sometimes you feel like imposter syndrome on what you're doing, and you're like, am I doing this the right way? Or I'm asking people to follow me, but am I even giving good information?
But
Like,
remember, there's not only one way to do things. There are
Yep.
lots of right ways to do things. And what's right and working for us might not work the same way for someone else. So either way, even though I'm validating what works for us might not be the right thing for someone else too. So there's lots of right ways to do stuff.
Yeah, which is why I just say get as much information as possible and take what resonates and leave the rest. But no, my husband's the same way. He doesn't want to have to think about what cards to use either. He always has 2 credit cards in his wallet. He has his Capital One Venture for when he's like, I don't know which one to use. Then he's got the Chase Sapphire Preferred when we go out to eat. So he feels good about that. Or when we are working on a minimum spend, he's like, okay, this is the card I'm using for everything. And he's so excited when we're working on a minimum spend because he's like, I only have to use one card.
Yes, same. It's like I don't have to think about it. But same, my husband only ever has 2. Exactly to your point. It's one of those that I mentioned with the 1.5 or 2x, we're working on a minimum spend, or he knows it's a category. Like a lot of his expenses are gas for driving. He drives to customers a lot. So he's got one that has a gas multiplier.
Okay, so let's get into the rapid fire. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What's a dive site on your bucket list, and can you get there with points?
We are trying to plan the Galapagos for 2027. So that is something we are trying to accumulate points for. We can get most of the way there on points. We will look for flights to Ecuador. And then there's smaller hopper planes out to the islands that would be a cost. And then the diving, we'll probably do a mix. There is a couple of properties at the Galapagos that are bookable points. There's a Hilton there, I think there's an IHG property there that either just opened or is opening. So doing a little bit of research on those options where we would spend a couple of nights on one of those properties most likely. And then a lot of the diving, you're actually on what's called a liveaboard boat.
Oh,
You
that's
are
cool.
spending a couple of nights so that you don't have to do so much traveling out to dive
Yeah.
sites and spending so much of your time just on the water trying to get to neat places. So we probably do a combo of a couple of days in one of those properties using points and then paying for the liveaboard, which would code as travel. So I'm eyeing up a Capital One new card to
Mhm.
have some potentially purchase eraser opportunities for costs like that, that it's going to be a big expense, but being able to cover some of it, at least with points and miles, would really alleviate that stress and that bad feeling in your tummy about spending so much money on
Mhm.
a trip like that when we could get at least 2/3 of the trip covered with points and miles.
Yeah, man. If you're using points just to supplement your budget, that's awesome. You're
Yeah.
still saving money on travel. It doesn't matter how you're doing it. The goal is to save money on travel and not pay full price. Okay, next question. Pool or ocean?
So I was actually a swimmer in high school, so I like lived in the pool, but I grew up in the Midwest and just loved the ocean. So I actually moved from Minnesota and went to college in California to be closer to the ocean.
Oh, wow.
So
Minnesota girl, but loves the ocean.
I
Nice.
know.
Near the
Live,
ocean my
yeah.
whole life, and I'd like the ocean. I just hate going to the beach.
Yeah. See, and I'm like, maybe it was because I was deprived of it for most of my childhood. Now I am like very much ocean obsessed. We currently live in Wisconsin, so I'm like as far from an ocean as you can probably be in the US. So anytime I'm going to the ocean, I know I'm going on a trip, so I probably now say ocean just because we love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite resort cocktail?
I'm usually pretty boring. I typically drink just like a vodka soda with a lime because it's so refreshing. But I will splurge and have like a mudslide after dinner dessert type drink. Occasionally, I could not drink them all day. I'm just not that
Mhm.
person that can have that much sugar, but
Yeah.
I do like to have a couple of those at an all inclusive and have something a little bit like a sweet treat.
Okay, cool. Checked bag or carry on only?
So typically carry on only, especially if we're just going for 3 or 4 nights. Some of our bigger trips, we will check so that we can bring some of our dive equipment. And especially if we know we're going to be diving multiple days or we know there's snorkeling there, we want our fins and our masks. And just it's nicer to have your own stuff that you're used to using. But whenever we can get away with carry on, we do.
Nice. Okay. Most underrated perk of all inclusives.
That 24/7 room service, like, I don't feel like people take advantage of that enough, and you can schedule it in advance. So, most of the properties let you say, 7:30 AM, I want my coffee and pastries delivered every day I'm on the property. And they would just naturally know, here's what I want, and they can bring it every morning. And again, it's that room service that people would normally not splurge on, and you can get almost anything you want, and it is there at your room in 20 to 30 minutes. And it is just like chef's kiss.
All right. If you could go on a kid-free trip anywhere tomorrow, where would it be?
Australia. So my husband and I have been dying to dive the Great Barrier Reef. I actually went to Australia when I was in college. I studied abroad in New Zealand for 6 months and did a month backpacking Australia, but I wasn't diving yet. So I
Mhm.
feel like I need to go back and experience the glory of scuba diving there. And the Great Barrier Reef is one of the, I think, most threatened areas of diving just because of global
Yeah.
warming and some of the damage that's happened to the coral reefs there. So it's really high on our list, but it's such a long trip that we definitely want to be able to take 2 to 3 weeks to do it. And just finding the time with
Yeah.
small kids and a full-time job make it more complicated, but it's on our list and we will get there someday soon.
Yeah, yeah, because the sooner the better with that one for sure. Really, with anything, you don't know how long things are going to last with climate change and stuff. So, definitely travel should be something that you try to do sooner rather than later. You don't want to wait till you retire to travel. And if money is the reason why you're waiting, please let me know what about this points and miles thing is confusing you. because this can be the way for you to make that affordable and make those memories before you can't.
Absolutely. There's plenty of places that we've been that like beautiful arches in the water that now are no longer there because they've crumbled and fallen. And you just never know. Tomorrow's not promised for any of these locations, or who knows, you could get in an accident or something and not be able to do some of the things you're able to do body wise now. So
Mm,
100% travel now. Don't wait.
yeah. Is there anything else you want to tell people about all inclusives or traveling with your kids at home?
I would just say, so when my husband and I got married, one of the things we committed to was we wanted to have kids. We both knew we wanted to have kids, but we also wanted to make sure our marriage and our relationship wasn't always sacrificed to benefit our kid. I think we have prioritized travel and some of these short getaways to make sure that we have that break, and it's actually healthy for our kid to have some time away from us too. And finding a way to make sure that you're doing some of the things that you love in life. For me, that's travel. A lot of people listening, that's probably travel too. And not letting yourself lose that when life changes. So we have found that this sweet spot of all inclusive works for us because of our situation. And we never expected that. Pre kids, I would have been like, no, we're not doing all inclusives. We're not going only for 3 days. It doesn't make sense. Now it's what works for us. So we've pivoted and we've adjusted based on how our lives have changed. And we have been so happy because of it and because of Points and Miles making it possible. So we aren't spending all year to save up for that one trip. And now we can fit in multiple each year and do a little bit of more variety and see more of the world.
Amazing. All right. So, where can the listeners follow your adventures?
So I am on Instagram and TikTok as Dive Into Points. So tying in that scuba diving piece. I did actually just launch a travel blog. Also at diveintopoints.com. So that's where I'm at everywhere. And it's been a really fun adventure. And I'm just looking forward to doing even more.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. All of that information has been amazing. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm super excited about your blog and I love your handle. So everyone go follow Jen. I will definitely have her information linked in the show notes. Huge thanks to you, Jen, for sharing your story and showing us that even short getaways can be luxurious, memorable, and totally doable on points. So, whether you're planning a dive trip, eyeing for your first all inclusive, or just looking for ways to travel more without overhauling your entire life, I hope this episode gave you some inspiration and maybe a few new ideas to try. So, if you love this conversation, be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's coming up next. And if you've stayed at these all inclusives or you have them on your bucket list, come share it with us in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. I love to hear what you're planning. I'm sure other people would love to hear it and get tips on planning and stuff like that. And as always, keep it simple, keep it fun, and keep exploring. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Next, go grab our free Budget Travel 101 course. You'll find it in the show notes or at travelingfranklins.com. And join the community. The Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group is ready and waiting for you. I'm excited to see you there, and I'll catch you in the next episode.